Let me get started, and I'd like this to be, a two-way conversation, but I have been in the military for 37 years. I've been a public health officer for 18 years, and I understand you all are interested in the medical field. Is that correct? So, thumbs up or shaking your head, yes? Okay, great. So I will tell you, I did not start out in the medical field when I joined the Air Force. So I was 19 when I joined, so I am prior enlisted, which means that I started out in the military without any education. So I never really appreciated that until later in my career, because I really used that as a foundation to becoming an officer. And I don't, the saying is that a lot of officers that have prior enlisted experiences make better officers. And in a lot of ways, I do agree with that because of understanding what the Air Force and what the military is all about. So again, just very proud of the fact that I had that kind of foundation when I did join back when I was 19. So I was in my 30s when I became a public health officer. So I already had that foundation, like I said, of understanding, my surroundings and, basically what the young airmen were all about when I became their supervisor and became their leader. So does anybody want to join the Air Force that I'm speaking to? Or has anybody thought about that? Anybody related to anybody that's in the military?
It's definitely been a thought of mine, but it's been a
Say
thought
that
of
again,
mine, but
Logan.
I
I'm
don't.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said it's definitely been a thought, but I'm not sure if I would want to go into that.
So since you're speaking, what are your interests? Just so then maybe I can talk about how it compares to the Air Force.
So I'm interested in going into nursing currently. My eventual goal is I would like to be a family doctor, but that's kind of a far off distant goal. So.
Right. Well, you absolutely never know, because I have worked with doctors that never went on to do their residency, and they ended up becoming public health officers because they realized after their education that they did not want to become a doctor. And so what public health officers do is we work alongside the doctors, and we use the education that we have about population health and community health to help the doctors better take care of the patients. Because the difference between a doctor, and this is how I describe it at work, is my job is to keep people out of the hospital. Public health is preventive medicine, keep people out of the hospital. And doctors obviously treat people that need something done, or, they're already sick or have a, disease or a illness or an injury. My job is to keep everyone safe so that they can perform their job and that we can keep them on the job performing the mission. So it is kind of an interesting collaboration, because the public health team is doing everything they can to figure out, okay, why are they in the hospital and what can we do to get them out of the hospital and well and back to the job. So we need nurses as well. So this particular base Wright-Patterson is, and their hospital is a training platform where they train 38, 40 different specialties. So we've got a lot of nurses that are here at the base that perform all sorts of duties. And we as public health officers work very closely with the nurses. And I will tell you, Logan, that several of the people that have worked for me have gone on to become nurses because there is a very good nursing program that once you get, to a certain point in your education, you can apply for a program that will pay for your continued education to become a nurse and to come back as an officer in the Air Force. Have you heard about that? Well, I can tell you, how old are you, Logan?
I'm 18.
You're 18. So you're getting ready to graduate, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I can tell you that, there are a lot of really good opportunities for you, and it not only just the Air Force, in the military, to look into for that, for nursing or for medical. Because it's not just, and I'm not speaking just about nursing. There's lots of other programs as well. So do you have any questions? Does that spark anything for you or anybody else?
It definitely opens up some options. I'll think about. So thank you.
Have you thought about what it does cost? And I'm just, it's been quite a while since I've been in college. I did have to pay for some of my college, some of my master's degree, but when I came back on as a public health officer, the Air Force ended up paying me for my master's degree. So I didn't even know at the time that I was going to be getting what they call a bonus to get some of that money back to be able to pay for the education that, that ended up being very valuable to me. Do you have any, have you worked that out? Have you thought about the price of what it costs to go to school?
I have, yeah, and that's another reason why I was thinking about going into the military was just like, it's kind of like a last resort if I have to kind of. As of right now, I'm only planning on taking a few classes, so it's a little more manageable. But yeah, it's just kind of one of the things where I'm keeping my mind open to my options.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you because I was, like I said, I was enlisted and I was taking classes while I was working. And I had to really keep that work level manageable so that I did well in my classes because I could not go full time and work. So there was that time, and that's a very good point about trying to keep things manageable. And, a big part of my job is managing my stress and managing the stress of what the job entails. And from what I was just saying earlier, I'm in charge of all the occupational health. We are a big part of a team where we determine what vaccines, what lab tests, what blood tests need to be done for the people that work in hazardous work environments here at the base. Because again, our job is to be able to provide those folks the personal protective equipment to be able to do the job safely and on a regular basis. So that's a big piece to what public health does, is to keep everyone as safe as possible while they're doing the job. And for example, is I was stationed at a base where they painted aircraft. And it's not like, painting a wall in your house or painting the outside of your house. I mean, it's a lot of very hazardous material taking care of an aircraft. So it was making sure that those people that do that job every day are kept safe. And that, that can truly become very stressful, especially when you meet somebody that comes in and is not well. And we need to make sure we follow the doctors, follow those results of those tests and different things to make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing and can do to keep everyone from getting sick. Or, the last thing that we would want is for somebody to go on workman's compensation or something like that because they got sick on the job or got, there was some safety issue, where safety's involved and that kind of thing. And like I said, a lot of the things that public health does is we do as a team. We work with safety, we work with the fire departments, we work with the doctors, like I said. We do lots of inspections, not only, at those job locations, at those shop locations, but we also do food inspections. And so we're actually the food inspectors for the entire base, for all the food establishments. And we've got over 80 of them here on the base. And what that means is that we have to hold a very high standard for the food the food managers and those food locations because of the population that they serve. And the way I tell them is that we have to keep this standard very high because we can't afford for instance, a foodborne outbreak of some sort where we could wipe out a whole mission and people be homesick for a week. I mean, we cannot afford that, right? So every month or, depending on what the schedule is for that food inspection, we go out and we educate the managers, the food managers, plus the employees about how important it is for them to make sure that certain things are done at these food facilities. And then every year we provide education to them and make sure that they have the knowledge to be able to serve the population as safely as they can. So that's another big area under the umbrella of public health. We also take care of all of our deployers. And I'm sure, thinking about, the previous, years where we were in Afghanistan and Iraq for long periods of time, we still have people deployed all around the world. And so it's our job to make sure that the folks that are going out the door, going to these deployed locations, have the medical intelligence and the vaccines and the knowledge of what to expect when they get to these countries and these different locations to be able to keep themselves from getting sick. So that's a big piece to what we do every day, and making sure that people are medically cleared to be able to go downrange to be able to do these missions. So up to this point, does anybody have any questions? It's the public health career field is very, very wide, and there's lots of different areas. And like I was mentioning earlier about being a team, the doctors have to, have certain requirements that they need to complete. So they come with us out to the different food facilities, and they learn as well, because they need to learn about, obviously the different foodborne illnesses and diseases that someone can get if they were to get sick. Also, they're the front lines to seeing if there is an issue here on base. So if they get, say, 5 people from the same squadron that come in with the same, the same kind of signs and symptoms, they may question like, hey, did you guys go out to eat somewhere together? You all have the same, sort of symptoms. So there are front lines to the epidemiology, which is, learning about what is going on in the population and how public health can then get involved and go, okay, what's going on here, where then we would do interviews and start asking them, okay, what are the similarities that you all had in the last few days that may have gotten you all sick? And it may not have been a food situation. It could have been something, at work. It could have been something that they had done, outside of work together. They could have gone to a restaurant off base. It's hard to say, but it's part of that investigation. So that's another big piece to what public health does to keep the population safe. So, every day, what I like to say to folks is no day is the same. And Logan, like, you're interested in becoming a nurse. I'm sure no nurse's day is the same, right? I mean, it's hard to say what they, come into on a daily basis because they have no idea. I mean, of course, we would love our nurses and doctors to be what I say bored, is because then they're not busy taking care of sick people. And then I always joke saying, are you bored? Oh, good. Then public health is doing their job because we're trying to keep people out of the hospital. So I love interacting with some of the doctors and the people that actually have the hands-on with the patients, because I learn what they're doing and then can learn from them and see what it is that we can do to tighten up some of the things that we're working on. So does all that make sense? Does all that, it all ties together. And public health is just one part of that big team of trying to keep people healthy and to be able to perform the important mission that we have. And another example that I give to people every now and then is think about flying an airplane. I mean, you guys haven't been on a military aircraft, but if you've been on a commercial airplane, you wouldn't want to know that the pilot up there had eaten somewhere and now he's not feeling well, right? So those are the types of things that we talk to the managers about, because we've got that special population, that high standard that we need to keep, so that, God forbid, we have an air crew that is getting ready to go fly a mission. We can't afford for them to get sick. So, that's like a really good example that we use regularly, because that's the last thing that we want. The last thing that we would want anyone, a helicopter. Think of a helicopter. Right now we have a bunch of helicopters visiting out here at the base, and they're some of them are just two-seaters. So you would not want to know that one of those two people are sick, from something that's preventable, that could have been prevented. So, those are examples that I use all the time for people that are coming to work on the base to understand that, why our job is so important. So, I mean, that's another really big thing that I love talking about, because, like, no day is the same. You think you have all these meetings and these different things that you need to get done, and then next thing you know, you get a phone call or an email, or somebody comes into my office and says, hey, we've got something that we've got to deal with, And so right now, you all are probably very, versed in, what's going on with COVID. So a year ago, when this all kicked off, public health, we had no idea what was what was happening. So it was a daily, daily briefings, daily meetings with leadership to go, okay, and somebody learning about what is going on in the local area, what's going on with the other public health departments, what's going on in the nation, what's going on around the world. And we had to keep track of all those things that were taking place so that we could provide good, solid recommendations to the leadership on how to take care of the population on the base. So, that was some very stressful days and months of working with the leadership. I guarantee they learned more about medical and the things that medical was doing than they ever expected, because it became not just a medical issue, it became everyone's issue, right? Because people were getting sick, people were needing to stay at home, people were at high risk. If anybody knows anybody that, has cancer, we've had people that have had underlying health conditions working from home since last March. So, and some of you may know that a lot of people are teleworking still a year later to be able to still be able to work and, obviously get the job done, but also to keep themselves safe and healthy as well. And not only themselves, but their entire family, because we have people that work here on base that not only, they have to worry about themselves, but they have to worry about family members. And some, have family members that have underlying health conditions that they have to be very careful with, and who they come in contact with, and still be able to get their job done. So it's been very interesting as far as all that goes, because of the different situations that people have, right? The different aspects of everyone's life. I mean, everybody's different. So we've had to provide recommendations to the leadership as to how we need to take care of the working population, not only them, but also their family. So it's been very interesting. And again, I've been a public health officer for a long time, and I take this to heart. I worry about people. I worry about, people being able to continue working, to be able to continue to at least stay as healthy as they can. I talk to a gentleman regularly through email, knowing that he has cancer and that recently he's been through some of his chemo, and normally he responds to me very quickly. He's been working from home, like I said, since last year. And when I didn't hear from him, I got nervous, because I'm like, okay, where are you? So I was sending him emails saying, I haven't heard from you. I'm nervous about, are you okay? So even though I hadn't seen him, personally, I knew he was there by email. So that was another, kind of a scary moment for me, because, I didn't know, what his situation was. So that's the kind of thing that, when I deal with people every day and then I don't hear from him, I'm like, okay, what's going on? But I do know that my team, has been very good about educating the population about getting the vaccine. That's another big part of public health, and providing education and providing the most information that we can, the most up-to-date, the current science not hearsay, not rumors, the science of what's going on with COVID, and providing the most current, correct education that we can give to the population so that they can make informed decisions about whether they want to get the vaccine. And so here at this base, our base commander, our wing commander, he has put together these town hall meetings, which is all done over the internet, where people can log on and listen to what he is providing to the base population in the community. And public health typically has a very big part to that, because we are part of that messaging and making sure that messaging is what we are all saying, completely on the same lines and saying the same thing. So, I've been really happy about our leadership here because of that information flow that he has provided, and plus the other leaders. Also, we have a really good website that and it's easy to use. I mean, we took a lot of feedback from people on how to provide a really good website, which is another big piece to public health, which, I never thought a year ago how involved I would be with this, working with computers, because I am not a computer whiz at all. I mean, you heard me say I could barely get the video going when I first got on, because that's not my expertise. But I had to learn a lot about how to put together educational material that could be put on the website, so that it was understandable for the population, so that they could go to that website. We could stop people from calling the hospital, or as many. I mean, we're trying to keep those phone calls to a minimum and say, hey, go to this website or listen to the town hall meetings. We're trying to get you the information as quickly as we can, but that's a good place to go to get, good current information. So, I had no idea just how involved public health would be until this pandemic started. So that's a whole nother piece to what public health does here at the base. Plus we do, part of travel medicine. I don't know if anybody in the class here has tried to travel at all, but, you may have heard on the news, a lot of the overseas countries, they were recommending that we didn't go to some of these places because of their high positivity rates, and that, we didn't want people to go and obviously take those risks of getting sick and then coming back and that kind of thing. But, again, that's part of that education piece that public health has a big part of, because of trying to keep our population safe. We're trying to get the numbers of COVID down, in our population. And I see, Logan, that you have a mask on still. I mean, wouldn't it be nice, and I'm sure everybody wants to shake their head, that we want to take these masks off? And it would be nice if it were sooner than later, right? I mean, obviously they serve a purpose. I mean, and they are, our first line of defense to try and stop the spread of disease. Or, speaking of that, I'm in charge of giving, making sure everyone on base gets active duty gets the flu vaccine. We've seen, our numbers of flu very low this year, and, it's partly because of the mask wearing that we have been doing and not spreading, influenza. So, that's been a good part of the public health message. Also, washing hands often. You know, believe it or not, a lot of people do not wash their hands. And it's, you know, I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, we try to get people to wash their hands for the, you know, for instead of just rinsing their fingertips, you know, actually washing their hands. But that is, you know, again, you know, one of the number one ways to prevent the spread of disease is just by washing your hands. So we've certainly got many of those public health messages out to the population to try and, you know, keep everyone from getting sick. So anyway, those are lots of the areas that public health, as a public health officer, and just the areas within the base as to what we do every day to take care of people. And there's lots of other, you know, we go to population health meetings, we go to community health meetings, we work together with the community public health offices. We've got a fantastic nurse that works here in my office who's been here for 28 years now, who has got a very good relationship with all the counties, you know, the 12 different counties that are close to Wright-Patterson. And that has been extremely helpful, not only during, you know, the pandemic, but just any time of the year with what's going on in the community. So those partnerships have been built by her, and the team, you know, just the being a team player with all those other folks has been extremely helpful. So that's another, you know, really big piece to what we do here at Wright-Patterson. So, okay, I'm going to stop. I'd like folks to ask questions. I can't see everybody, but please, if you want to talk about anything else, I mean, please let me know. I know I've done most of the talking, but I'd love to hear what you all have to say, or if you've got any questions or are curious about anything, please feel free to get on and unmute. I see, Logan, you've unmuted your microphone. Do you have a question?
Yes, I actually have a few. So what is the limited knowledge that you need to work in public health?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How much knowledge or how much schooling do you need to work in public health? Like, what's the minimum?
That's a good question. So I'm just going to tell you from my standpoint, to be a public health officer, the minimum to be a public health officer is to have a master's degree. And it needs to be in a science-based, it's not necessarily public health. Both my bachelor's and my master's degree both happen to be in preventive medicine, in public health. And I focused on community health for my master's degree. I work with another public health officer, believe it or not, she's a veterinarian, and she has a PhD in epidemiology. So she's way over, overqualified, but this is her first job. So again, like I said to you earlier, Logan, that she decided to come in the Air Force to be able to help pay back some of her schooling, to pay back some of her school loans that she had acquired while she was getting her PhD. So there are lots of people that are, what we call MPH public health officers, and then we have veterinarians that are also public health officers. So the minimum is to have a master's degree. And then, as far as, so I'll just go on to say that I have 20 young airmen or so that work for me, that work in our flight. and they're the technicians. So they came in your age, some of them are 18, 19, 20. One of them just turned 21. They just come in right out of high school, go to basic training, and then they go on to what they call a tech school, a technical school, where they learn different areas of public health, and then go on to be a public health technician. And I have seen public health technicians go on to become officers in different areas. I just had a young person that she got her master's degree in social work, and she became a lieutenant and went on to be a social worker. So that was something that she worked very hard towards while she was in the Air Force. The Air Force paid for every bit of her education, plus provided her with some job experience where she was able to go work in the area where there were other social workers. So she was selected to become a lieutenant as a social worker. So that was a big success story for us and for the Air Force, obviously, because we got a great person that went on, to get her education and then want to stay in and, fulfill her lifelong dream of becoming a social worker. So that was a great, great news story for us here at the hospital.
So, I know you said they pay for schooling or for most of the schooling. Do you have, or do they have like or are you obligated to stay with the military for a certain amount of time, or?
Yeah. So there are typically, I want to say it's 3 years. So if you go on, to get, where we've got a school right here on, not a medical school, but it's the Air Force Institute of Technology. I don't know if you've ever heard of AFIT, but this is, there's a huge Air Force school here. Not all the students are here, but people go to school around the country, around the world, and get educations, and then they have a commitment that they have to give back to the military. And I want to say typically it's 3-4 years or so, but it all depends. It does. It all depends. It all depends on what it is that the military paid for, and then that up front. I mean, you don't know that, that's not a surprise to anyone. That's part of signing and saying, yes, I want to get this education, and yes, I will serve the military for X number of years. And a lot of people do that. A lot of, we meet some great people, and especially here in the hospital, we meet great doctors that get their education, do their, complete their commitment with the Air Force, and then move on. And, those are some of the best people that I've ever met. But, they do what they said that they would do, and then they go out into the community and continue their career. So, but that's an ever changing. I mean, for the most part, it's a young population. These are young doctors or young nurses that stay for the amount of time that they need to stay, and then they move on. But it goes back to that great foundation, having that great foundation of, where you start out your life. I mean, you guys are just starting your lives, and you can build, it's what they call stepping stones to get to whatever it is that, like me as a senior public health officer, I had stepping stones to get to where I am. So, where I have built up my experience from all those stepping stones to get to where I am today.
And then working in public health, what is your daily or what does your usual day look like? Like, do you have a lot of hands-on with patients, or?
I do not. Because I'm like I said, I'm a lieutenant colonel. The captain that works for me, yes, she does. She goes out with the technicians and goes out to do the food inspections. She meets with, different patients that come in. She works with our deployers. So she has more hands-on with the people that come into public health. I am, with moving up, it becomes more of an administrative role of taking care of the administrative things that go on within the office. So the younger officers do, definitely the technicians. I mean, that's their job. That's what they do. They meet with all these, the shop visits. They meet with all the shop managers. They work with all the doctors, the occupational health doctors, and the other sections that work in that area. They work with the deployers. They're on the phone with them. They're on the phone with their, what they call their unit health, or their unit deployment monitors, UDM. The technicians are definitely the ones that work with, if you want to call them patients, but our customers is their whole day is filled. So everybody works in a different section, but we're still a big team. So if you work in that deployment section, you would be working with those folks. If you worked in the occupational health section, you would be working with, the different shops. So it just depends. But, as you learn, you go around and you learn all these different areas. Anyone else? I appreciate these questions.
Sorry. I was going to say, what's like your favorite part of your job?
Honestly, it is the networking. It's working with other people around the base. Believe it or not, when we were going to meetings face to face, I loved going and seeing people and talking to people. It's like I said, no day is the same. Mm-hmm. So I would have to go to meetings that are on the other side of the base. Half the time I'd have to go early so I didn't get lost because the space is so big. But I always enjoy going and meeting people. And I'm a very friendly, outgoing person. And, fortunately, that's something I enjoy to do. If somebody is more introverted and doesn't necessarily like to get out of their office, this isn't necessarily the job for them. But I can tell you the relationships that I have built since I have been here at this base, and even at my previous bases, it's going out and working with the people. I absolutely love it. I love, because when you work together as a team, you guys know in a classroom, when you have good teammates, it makes it fun, right? It makes it enjoyable. It makes it rewarding. When you're working on a project, when you're working with people that you like, that have the same, work ethic that you do, that you want to get the job done, you want to get a good grade. That's how I am. I will go above and beyond to make sure that, communication is understood, the education, which is a big piece, is what I've been talking about. Just making sure that, okay, are we doing everything we can to make sure that this mission is being taken care of? And I just love it. I love going out and about. And that's what I've missed about because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I've missed going out. I mean, I would have loved to have met all of you in person, you know, and had a chance to talk to you, you know, face to face. But this is the way it is now. And that's why, you know, I'm hoping someday that we'll be out of the masks and we'll all be able to see each other face to face again and see, you know, different parts of our lives change and possibly go back to somewhat of what normal was.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely the favorite part to my job. It's not meant for everybody, I can tell you, because I do a lot of public speaking. And
Yeah,
and
yeah, maybe not.
Exactly. So, but I've had to learn that. I've had to learn to do that. I mean, I started out being scared to death. I had to take, I took 2 classes in college on public speaking because I was so nervous the first time. I'm like, I have to keep doing this because they keep saying that the more you do it, the better you get. And so, like the young captain that works for me, she sees how easy it is for me to get up in front of people and talk to people. But I told her, I said, I was at her spot one point in my life because I didn't necessarily like getting up and talking to people. But now I love it. I absolutely love it because, you know, I'm comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable. I talk to, you know, I can talk to a group of 500 and, you know, and it's as if I'm just talking to one person because I mean, I love what I do. I love talking about public health. I love being a member of the Air Force. I mean, I'm very proud of our military. I mean, we're the, you know, #1 Air Force in the entire world. So we're the most powerful. And, you know, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 some years and I have a lot of pride. So that is definitely my favorite part.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, it's been a great pleasure and I appreciate the questions that you asked. I mean, I wish you all the best. I mean, if you do consider the military, you know, I think it would be a great experience. So you know, obviously your teacher knows how to reach me. If anybody has any other questions, again, I'm available. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Honestly, and Logan, with all those questions that you asked, I mean, I'm happy to be your you know, your mentor and help you out in any way I can. All right. So you all take care and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.